The Hangar Z Podcast is on location with the Burbank Glendale Joint Air Support Unit.
Up at 10,500 feet over Mount Lee, which is the Hollywood sign for people who don't know. And a unit puts out a failure to yield, and I type in the address, the camera slaves to the call, or the location. There I see the unit with its lights on and everything, and I see the car. I switch to FLIR, I see the car that he's chasing, and we're up at 10,500 feet from like maybe 3 miles away. We're calling this pursuit for him.
Welcome to the Hangar Z Podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts and partnered with Vertical Valor Magazine. In this two-part series, Jack Schonely and Jon Gray are on location inside the hangar of the Burbank Glendale Joint Air Support Unit. Pilot Pat Hamblin from the Glendale Police Department and pilot Steve Conaway from the Burbank Police Department provide insight into the inner workings of this unique unit. Both of our guests have very interesting journeys into law enforcement and aviation. We discuss training, the benefits of the combined unit, airspace, cooperation with other surrounding air units, and the delivery of a brand new Airbus H125 later this year. The background soundtrack is brought to you by Southwest Airlines departing Runway 15 at Bob Hope Burbank Airport. John and I really love these hangar podcasts, sound and all. Special thanks to Massif Flight Suits for their support. Thank you to our sponsors, Night Flight Concepts, Canyon Aero Connect, and Traca Systems.
Welcome to the Hangar Z Podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts. The Hangar Z Podcast is the first and only podcast dedicated to promoting and exploring the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation.
Still southbound, skidding to a stop. Stand by here. Looks like you're getting ready to bail. Heads up, guys, bailing. Okay, the guy, he's running through the house, jumping the fence, through the shotgun, through something out. Grabbing the shotgun. Don't go over that fence. Don't go over that fence. Grab the shotgun again. He is armed. Stay there. Hold your position.
Welcome to the Hangar Z Podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts and partnered with Vertical Valor Magazine. And we are at Bob Hope Airport today at the Burbank Glendale Joint Air Support Unit hangar. Very unique situation here in Burbank Glendale, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to start off with that today. But to begin, we want to introduce our two people that have agreed to join us. And Pat Hamblin is from Glendale Police Department, and Steve Conaway is from Burbank Police Department. So we have a representative of each department, but they're in the same air unit. And so welcome. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. We really appreciate it. You joining us, and it worked out really good that we were able to come here to you and have this great background and in your hangar, and the jet noise in the background of Bob Hope in beautiful downtown Burbank. So we want to start with this joint air support unit because it's unique. It's very unique. There are other units that support multiple agencies, but this has been a partnership that for quite a while now. And Steve, you were here for the transition, so yes. I'll go to you for the beginning of this. Tell us about how that happened. That two cities, one air unit, how they joined forces to end up being where you are today.
So I think the idea came from consolidating resources to kind of have a more efficient use of money, limited money. So back in 2007, the two cities agreed to join the air support, both air support units. Each city had 2 helicopters. Back then, Burbank had a MD-520N, and we also had a 500E model. And Glendale had 2 N models, 520Ns. The agreement was to get rid of the E and then just have one common aircraft to a more seamless transition, training and parts and everything, maintenance, all that sort of thing. So we did lose one helicopter between the two cities, and then we had 3 up until 2020, and then we lost one helicopter, which is over here in our hangar, to make it a parts ship, and now that's we're down to 2 aircraft. But yeah, it's worked pretty well. We've had personnel from both cities, from Glendale and Burbank, and it allows us to increase our knowledge of both cities and obviously kind of extend our reach into both cities. So.
Right. And it works out working together for not just financial reasons, but just you're supporting each other, whether you were a joint air support unit or not. You'd be supporting that other agency because they're right next door. and it just having personnel from both just seems like a really smart idea to do it.
Yeah, and so prior to 2007, we did share this facility ever since like the early 90s, and we did have this agreement where when helicopter would go up, it'd be the Burbank helicopter would respond to calls in both cities, and then it would land, a Glendale ship would go up and then respond to calls in both cities. So it's kind of like we were living together, and then in 2007 we decided to get married and make it official.
That's a great way to put it. That's a great way to put it. And before I get fired, it's important that YouTube knows, but the creator of the Hangar Z Podcast is sitting right here. How did I forget to say, and Jon Gray's here, because Jon brought all the equipment. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing this. Jon, hello.
Hey, good morning.
It's good to see you in person and not on our computer screens like we normally do.
Yeah, I felt funny bringing all the equipment today. People are looking like, what is this guy doing with all this stuff?
That's funny.
But it worked out good.
The only one, yeah.
When I picked them up at the train station, first of all, I went to the wrong train station. I went to the one on the south side of the airport. And then Jon calls me and says, hey, where are you at? I'm like, dude, you're not here yet. There was no train. And he goes, no, I'm standing at the curb. He sends me a picture. And then I realized I had to go to the north side of the airport to the Metrolink. So we got here. We survived. We got here with the equipment. And it's good to be in person with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, your agency being so close to where I flew and where Jack flew, the fact that we haven't had a chance to talk yet, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's really honored to be here. Thanks for opening up your house for us. I always love these in-person recordings.
Yeah. These are fun.
The music supplied by the airport type thing, that's always I love it.
Yeah.
As an aviation nerd, I think it's great. So thank you guys.
Yeah, we've gotten good through the years of just stopping mid-sentence and carrying on after the plane takes off.
I'll bet. It becomes automatic, huh?
It does.
Yeah. They had music provided by Southwest Airlines. I mean, this is a busy airport. Airport. And when we got here this morning, it was funny. We were talking to Pat, and he said, yeah, you'll have the jet noise, and you'll have your old folks doing auto rotations out here, I'm sure. And within 2 minutes of being in the hangar, there's an LAPD helicopter doing an auto to the deck here on the runway. So it's really cool to be in this environment, because this is where we lived before retirement, in hangars and around maintenance and noise, and so we like it.
And the cool thing about this airport is this is where Marine One will stage out of when the president comes to town. So we see the V-22s and the H-3s and now the S-92s or the VH-92 parked down there. And it's really cool to see that stuff.
It is.
I love the Ospreys. I think that's one of my favorite aircraft. The sound of it, I know when one's nearby because it shakes the house.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. One flew in last night, actually, and it was loud, shaking everying here.
That's so cool.
They are neat. I had the opportunity to fly that simulator at Miramar.
Oh, really?
And very intimidating, because you look at it and you go, oh my God, how am I going to fly this thing?
Yeah.
Everybody at this table could get in just like I did and fly that easy. It is a helicopter. Don't be fooled that it turns into an airplane. It's a helicopter. It's very stable. It's really simple concept. Now, I didn't do any emergencies. I just flew it, but really easy, believe it or not. Cool. It's got a thumb, this roller on the throttle. It's like a throttle, the wheel, and you just turn it with your thumb, and that's what takes the rotors and brings them into the airplane mode. And there's limitations on speeds and all that, but really cool.
Yeah,
it's really, really cool to fly. And like I said, when you slow it down and bring them up, it's a helicopter. So really, really nice here at Burbank. And I've been in here many times, of course, over the years, surveillances and fly-ins and exchange, and just stopping with students, exposing them to the ramp. And because we knew we're neighbors and we worked together. You guys helped us at the Chile fly-in every single year over the years. Remember the big job, this is funny. The big job for Burbank Glendale was to bring wheels, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Over the years, bring wheels, because we didn't have any wheels for the MD products.
Yeah.
So they would bring the wheels first thing in the morning so that if other MDs would land, we could move them and park them in an appropriate area on the South 40. That was always fun. That always just seemed funny to me. You guys were always the first to land, during that busy day because of that. But
when you talk about busy, this is a busy airspace. We'd transition this area quite a bit to go to Pacoima. We'd get maintenance done there. So we'd fly up through, past over JPL, and then quick check-in. You know, I always was a little bit nervous that I was going to miss a call or miss a check-in because of the handoff so fast getting over to Whiteman.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Yeah, depending on which way you went. It's either really quick or pretty short going there.
And the mountain actually blocks your reception and transmission. Yeah. So you're if you're not in the right position altitude-wise, you're not going to get out.
Yeah, it's fun when you're working up over La Crescenta and then there's a hot call in Burbank. So you got to come up over the Verdugos and you're trying to get on with Burbank and there's a Southwest landing and some new student pilots transitioning up over the zoo and you just want to get over that hillside and dive down and can't get on the air.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do the old trick of just getting your call sign in and say, Burbank Tower, Police 100, and then wait for them to acknowledge. Okay, they acknowledge. Okay, now we're in.
That's right. That's right. It's a busy place.
Yeah.
I mean, there's lulls, right? I mean, there are lulls here.
Definitely.
I mean, it's a busy airport, but there are lulls where you can go quite a bit of time without it. But when it cranks up, it's one of the busiest places there is because it's just landings and takeoffs going rapid fire here. And then you add, the helicopters and training and fixed wings and private jets, and you add all that, and this is a busy place.
I don't mean to jump ahead, but we're here. Can you guys talk about the airspace, not just this airspace, but everything that's surrounding this? Because I think it's fairly unique in that there's so many airspaces in this one particular spot.
No, right here you're in Burbank's Class Charlie, but then you've got Whiteman just to the north, you've got Van Nuys just to the west. You go south, and you're in the LA metro area, and if you keep going south, and half our pursuits probably end up towards South Los Angeles, so you end up going down there towards the Bravo. So you take it for granted being able to learn in a busy environment for flying. I mean, remember one of Ontario pilots, his first pursuit was coming eastbound on the 10, and he gets on the radio. So we flew secondary for him and called out transitions through Burbank because
he's like, thank God.
Your first pursuit, anyways, you're up to your eyeballs in it, but you take it for granted being able to learn in a busy environment.
Yeah, we talk about that all the time. We'll go Washington, D.C. is a good example. We go there and we're talking about the airspace, and it's no big deal because that's where they operate all the time. But to us, we're like, holy cow. Yeah. So interesting.
Yeah, every place we go, we talk about that airspace. And it's funny because it's the same for everybody. The guys in D.C. said, that's no big deal. Oh, that L.A. stuff. But we look at it and go, this LA stuff's easy compared to that. But it's what you said. You learn in a busy airport, you learn in busy airspace. It seems like nothing. I mean, it just doesn't even faze you. But New York is another one. New York City. Oh, yeah. I look at that. Just looking at it is very intimidating. But yet, Glendale, who's a retired NYPD guy, he just laughs and goes, I think LA's 10 times crazier than this. And not on paper, but it's where you learn. It's where you're comfortable. Yeah. If you fly every day, you don't think about it. You just do it. It's almost automatic. I think the unique thing about the airspace that you guys are flying in is that when you do get a following or a pursuit, is that you can be in 3-4 different airspaces within 15 minutes. I mean, where you're going bam, bam, bam. Depending on which freeway they get on, you are going to talk to multiple towers, rapid fire, that are all up against each other. No matter which way you go. You go north, you got Whiteman. You go east, you got El Monte, So, and south is a given. I mean, you got LAX. So it's actually fun, though, and it makes it a challenge.
It's challenging, yeah.
It is. And it's fun teaching students, too. And we'll get into some of the teaching here in a little bit. But, yeah, let's kick into who we're talking to today. And Steve, we'll start with you. Tell us. You have a unique journey into aviation, very unique, but we want to hear about how you ended up in law enforcement and then law enforcement aviation. So tell us about where you grew up and how you ended up where you are today.
Okay, so I grew up in the South Bay area here in L.A., Carson area specifically. I got into helicopters by watching this real goofy show called Airwolf. I'm sure we're all aware of it. I used to love that show, and I can't watch it now. It's just too cheesy.
Isn't that funny? You loved it at one time, and now you look at it and go, oh, my gosh.
And probably the quickest journey was when I was, I think, 13 or 14. My mom took me to the Van Nuys Air Show back when they had that, which was many, many moons ago. And I remember seeing a table. Jetcopters was there, which was the supplier of helicopters for Airwolf. And I remember seeing like a brochure, and it was something like for your private pilot license, like $7,000. And I was 14 at the time. And somehow in my mind, I thought, I could do that.
Yeah.
And I was probably, high on something, whatever. But you're young and you're ambitious, right? And so what I did is I looked at some flight schools, thinking that, well, if I got a job there, they'd probably give me a discount on lessons. And this one place at Long Beach Airport actually kind of even did better than that. They offered me flight instruction in exchange for cleaning the helicopters. Oh. So I would take the bus 2 hours after school to the airport, and then I'd work for 3 hours, and then my mom would come pick me up around 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and I'd do that 5 days a week, and then I'd go on Saturdays for my 1 hour of instruction, and built 1 hour at a time, and eventually got my private pilot license at age 17.
Incredible.
Yeah,
in rotorcraft.
In rotorcraft, yeah.
That's so pretty rare.
Unique.
Yeah. I don't think I've talked to anybody who's 17 with a helicopter certificate.
So
talked to a whole bunch with fixed wing that said, "Oh yeah, I was 16 and got fixed wing." That's not uncommon in the world that we live in. But when I read that, Steve, I went, whoa, rotorcraft at 17 and at 16 you're flying it. Yeah, that's amazing.
And what I took away from that is probably a 17-year-old probably shouldn't be flying a helicopter by himself.
Oh, that's great. Probably shouldn't even be driving a car for some, but that's amazing.
Yeah, so I didn't kill myself.
For that too. What you just described, that's a lot of work for an hour at a time. How long did it, was it a long process from the time you took your
because
first
I started this at 15 is when I got the job. I remember 15. I was like 15 years old. 3 months or something like that, and I didn't get my license till I was 17 and like 4 months. So it took over like a year and a half. Yeah.
Wow. But that's how you had to do it to earn it. Yeah. Oh, that's incredible, and it's neat that they did that deal for you too. I mean, we've heard the stories before working at the airport. I mean, Randy Rolls talked about that, and others. Sonoma, we had some of that where you're looking for jobs to try and get some flight time, but it's that. You worked very hard.
Yeah. And Long Beach was a really cool airport to learn at. Obviously, it's busy.
Yes.
And then HAI came, I think, somewhere in the early, maybe 91 or something like that. So they staged the helicopters out of there, and you'd see like just really cool helicopters at the time. I remember seeing the very first Notar on our ramp, and it was just, I remember it sounded like a giant vacuum cleaner. Yeah. Just the sound. It was really neat. Got to sit in an Augusta 109 as the pilot just ran it up, and I just thought it was the coolest thing. We didn't fly, just got to sit in it while he ran it up for whatever reason, and just really cool experiences. I have really good memories of that.
Wow. So I went to Hellistream, and we spent most of our time at Long Beach. The Pad 4 was where I lived the most of that time. Yeah. That was the first little hover solo was there. So I talked about going IFR in my sunglasses because I was so sweaty. I was so nervous. But that's fond memories there.
That's where I did my first solo too, there. But back then it was only 3 pads in the middle. Now they have 4.
Yeah, wow. Pretty cool. Yeah. Thank you to our sponsor, Canyon Aero Connect. Canyon Aero Connect has been a trusted leader in airborne law enforcement communication since Paul Wolfsburg introduced the first flight phone in 1970. While our name has evolved, our commitment to innovation and quality remains strong. Contact us today at canyonaeroconnect.com to explore our latest mission-critical solutions.
For those that don't know, Long Beach is kind of like this airport.
Yeah, it's very busy.
Very busy. Commercial traffic, there's lots of fixed wing and rotorcraft there in training all the time. Multiple runways.
They have 2 frequencies for each
north,
side
south.
of the air.
I mean, that's you got thrown in the fire there.
Yeah, but that's how I learned.
That's right. And now that benefits you to this day. Yeah. Where things that would phase others, you go, I was 15 doing that.
It'll be funny when he'll take us down there. He'll take us down there on a training flight or something, and you're supposed to use the Wardlow approach and hang a left at the C-17 building. We're doing what here?
Exactly, but you know it like the back of your hand because you learned there. Yeah, Wardlow approach and departures, right?
Yeah,
and they're picky there.
Yeah,
as we know that we've talked about a certain tower person there before, and you know who that is because you've learned there probably. There were some that were very picky there.
Yeah, but they have to be.
They have to be.
It's a busy environment.
This one particular person went overboard, but Tim Tucker, I don't know if you watched with Tim. Yeah. Tim had many conflicts with him. Tim spent countless hours at Long Beach over the years, training and doing check rides and. So that came up, but
didn't Tim request the tower's number?
Yes, he does. That's like when the tower says, call me when you, again. No, here's my number. You call me. That was one of the best lines in that whole episode with Tim. We love Tim Tucker. I mean, he is.
I did my private check ride with him.
Did you?
Yeah,
see that?
Very great.
Not unusual.
Pilot.
Had contact with Tim Tucker?
No, Dan Benton did my check ride.
Okay. Because it's amazing. I mean, how many check rides he did? What was it? Is it?
I don't even remember, a lot
or something.
Yeah.
It was absolutely incredible how many times. So that's contact with a lot of people where they impacted your life. You.
Yeah, and I liked hearing his story, by the way.
Oh, his story was amazing. Yeah. Tim's a special human. I mean, and I knew a little bit of that, and I had done my private and CFI with him, and then I sent people to him over the years, so I got to know him a little bit. I couldn't believe the things we learned from him. That was fascinating. His Vietnam time, purchasing the first R-22.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yes.
I mean, that's just really unique, and his impact on all the industry as a whole, not just Robinson stuff, is amazing.
Yeah. I feel like for people that are early on their flight instruction, that's a really good episode series to listen to. There's certain ones that are good for different things, but his episode, not only is it entertaining because he's a great guy, but I think he gives a lot of information, a lot of advice to young pilots that are in their private,
Yeah.
So encourage you guys to listen to that if you haven't listened to it.
Yeah, it's helpful advice, and it's inspiring from the Vietnam background.
Oh, it is. That Vietnam job was a very unique gig that he was doing. I mean, going into Laos every day, that's for his whole tour. That's amazing. But so, Steve, take us back now. That's incredible how you got into the aviation side. Did you, once you got that private, was that where you said, okay, full speed ahead, aviation, or what else happened in that
No,
time period?
I mean, once you get your private and then the next hurdle to get to 150 hours for your commercial seems like a pretty good jump.
Yeah,
so
it is.
I didn't really see it in the cards, but I did love flying. And then when I went to college at Long Beach State, I did a class with retired Chippy who taught like an intro to criminal justice. And that just the whole idea of working outdoors kind of appealed to me. So I went into law enforcement. That seemed very appealing to me at the time. Got hired with the LA County Sheriff's Department at age 21. Stayed there, worked up at Wayside for a couple years, and then I came to Burbank because I applied with a few departments, all that had aviation units, and then Burbank was the one that picked me up in 4 months. And I think it was definitely the best choice for me. And I got here in the unit in 2007. I didn't make it my first time, so my advice to anybody out there is don't give up if you don't make it on the first time. But I've been here since 2007. I've been able to achieve getting my commercial rating through the city, instrument, CFI, and CFII.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Wow. So going back though, the law enforcement side of things, it was just that class that you took, or did you have anything before that where you were looking at law enforcement as a possibility, or was that class like the spark?
Well, a couple things. I grew up in Carson. I'd see the sheriff's helicopter flying over, and then I thought that'd be really cool to do that. But I just didn't think that was one of those things that was ever going to happen for me. I used to go to the library. For people who don't know, those are places that have books that you can borrow. So,
you can borrow them?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
And I would check out the same books all the time about helicopters, and I would just read these things over and over again. And I just fell in love with the helicopters, but again, didn't really see it in the cards. Ended up getting hired with the department, and let me back up. I'm sorry about that. I did have a neighbor who was married to an LA County deputy.
Okay.
And I remember going on a ride along in Carson, and just the stuff I saw. I mean, what an eye-opening experience,
Yeah.
Seeing a guy unfortunately got shot in the chest and died. And I mean, I was like, wow, this is, this is
intense.
Something. Yeah, it's intense, but it seemed appealing to me. So, so that was the path I took. And I think I just got I hit the life lottery getting this spot here.
Yeah. So you're at the sheriff's, and you just got tired of one burrito, one bed, one blanket, and Burbank came through for you, huh?
Yeah, something like that. It's I really wanted to be a deputy for a long time, and making that move was kind of tough. but I think looking back, it was probably the best move I made.
Yeah. At that time period, and for those that don't know, LA County, like many sheriff's departments, you joined them, you're going to be in custody for a while. Yeah. What was the time period in your window where you knew you were going to be in custody?
I think it was probably like 4 to 5 years, and I left after 2. But I left more because of the schedule. I had to work graveyard 5 days a week, and then coming here, they had a 3-12, and I was like, wow, 4 days off a week.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Where do I sign?
A big difference, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. And so you get to Burbank, and the goal is coming to this hangar.
Yeah.
I mean, you knew that when you signed up. What did you do before you come in here? Was there any highlights or?
I just worked patrol.
Patrol, and
I had a blast
that.
doing it. Yeah.
Yep.
I had a blast working patrol, and I try to do as best as I could, and keep myself clean and make a good name for yourself. And
that's right.
I think it worked.
What's the line that you use, John, all the time about, you want to get to air support or SWAT or K-9, but you do
the job you're in currently the best. You're
right.
If you can do that job really well, it doesn't matter what it is. That's the thing that's going to get you to where you want to go.
Yeah. Right.
If you're so focused on 2 jobs from now, I think you sacrifice some of the quality of the work you're doing there, and that reputation precedes you. So you did the right thing. Worked really hard in patrol, and that's the backbone of what we're doing in these programs. So,
that's right.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into more detail in a little bit about how that works coming to the unit. We'll get into that for both of you, but that's really interesting. I love that you worked so hard to get that rotorcraft as a teenager.
Yeah, that's wild.
And that's just what an amazing start. That's very unique. So Pat. John, just so you know, Pat's one of these guys that says, I don't have an interesting background. And then he sends you the bio, and you go, are you kidding me, Pat? You have a very interesting background.
Did I send you the truthful one? No,
yeah, I think you did. I think it was factual. I have it right here.
What did they say? Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story or something like that?
Well, Pat's got some good stories, man. You have a unique journey as well. And it wasn't law enforcement. It was aimed at one thing. Very initially to military, right?
Yep.
And then all of a sudden something happened to you and it changed. Tell us your story, Pat.
Okay.
This is good.
Well, as a kid, my dad was on the sheriff's department.
Yep.
I got to go on a ride. In fact, as a kid, I got to go on a ride when my dad was on SEB.
That's cool.
In the Hughes 500 at
yes.
the time. So maybe I was in the helicopter that Steve was looking at flying over Carson.
I could be.
And so fascinated by aviation as a kid. My uncle was a pilot with Pasadena PD, so sometimes he would come over. We lived right over here in Sunland. He'd fly over the house in the Enstrom, their bright red Enstrom.
Yes.
And so he'd wave at us and fly off. So I'd always hear his stories. And then, of course, my dad with the sheriff's department. He was on SEB during that nice quiet period of the end of the 70s with the Iranian demonstrations.
It was boring at the end
nothing
of the 70s.
ever happened there. So that famous photo where you see the sheriff's radio car rolling and one of the demonstrators going over the hood, driving through. He was in that conga line of radio cars coming in there. So, so I'd hear his stories as a kid. In fact, there was one time they were working a demonstration and one of the supervisors was a little upset and they were going to try to find out who everybody was. Well, my dad comes home and my mom says, well, you better not have him talk to your son because he identified you right away. That's Daddy right there. So,
oh my gosh, that's great.
So didn't talk to I at the time. But at the time, my dad didn't discourage law enforcement, but said, hey, look at different things. Right. And I was always a student of military history. Love U.S. history, military history. My plan was I'm going to try to get into the military academy or the Naval Academy, become a naval officer. I got nominated by Congressman Carlos Moorhead, who was our local congressman, and then proceeded to go out and break my neck at the beach down in San Diego.
Oh, jeez.
So I cracked the C6, was parallel to the spine, so I didn't have any paralysis or loss of feeling or anything. But I figured that threw away any opportunity at any job that required physical activity. Yeah. So during that time, that's then going into my senior year of high school. As I'm sitting there on the bench with the basketball team, not able to play yet, I'm seeing our coach, Brian Gibson, seeing him coach and thinking, that'd be an awesome opportunity. I can coach sports and then I can teach history And, I won't be able to be physically active with something, but, that'd be, maybe the Lord's going to lead me into this opportunity. This will be something I'll do here. So I ended up going to school at the Master's College, then now Master's University out in Santa Clarita.
Yep.
Majored in, loved it out there, loved my 4 years there. I got my degree in history, and then ended up teaching at Village Christian right over here in Sun Valley for 5 years. Taught there for 5 years. In fact, Dave Swanson, who you flew with at LAPD, him and I went to high school together. At Village.
Well, Dave's a great guy.
He is. And he's had a ton of opportunities with LAPD, which I'm trying to be jealous of.
He deserves all of them, too. He's a hard worker.
He's a very hard worker.
He's just one of the nicest people that you ever want to meet.
Yeah.
Just a regular, easygoing guy, but smart and hardworking, and
he's kind of jumping ahead. But he helped. I'd go on ride-alongs with him. Get ready to come out here.
Yeah.
So taught for 5 years, but then during that time, that's when 9/11 happened, and I still had that desire to do something, civic duty minded. My younger brother, meanwhile, had gotten hired with Pasadena PD in 2001. So I went on a ride along with him, and I thought, well, maybe I would be able to pass a physical, and I could at least be a reserve or something.
Yeah. So
I applied, and I wanted to go to some place where I'd always had that love for aviation. So I wanted to go someplace where I could fly. I looked at Pasadena, and for a variety of reasons, applied at Glendale, and so got hired at Glendale. Funny story though is I go through the background because you don't have to disclose anything medical. If it comes out in the physical, by all means you get disqualified. Right. But and I didn't lie about anything. But it was I didn't volunteer that I'd broken my neck.
Yeah.
Someone in my background writes this glowing review about how Pat battled back from his broken neck. And so, so now, of course, they have every right to ask about. So I did the physical, but lo and behold, it was good. It was good. Yeah. So I got hired, and so that was in 2003.
Wow.
So
that's a big switch. History teacher, coach.
And it was hard to give up the coaching. First few years.
Well, you didn't, right?
I did not. Yeah.
You kept that going. But before we get to that, because there's some big things that happened at that time, go back to when you're the history teacher and coach. What were you coaching at the high school?
At Village, I was coaching high school basketball at Village.
Basketball.
And so at Village, we were okay. But then as I got hired at Glendale, then I became an assistant coach at Campbell Hall.
Okay.
And at Campbell Hall, we ended up winning the state championship in 2005, going 32-0.
Yeah.
And that was
incredible.
In fact, since that, here we are, 20 years later, and there's only been 2 undefeated teams in California boys basketball. So I think Mater Dei was one, and I think a school up in Oakland has since been undefeated. But,
that's an incredible feat.
Yeah.
An incredible feat. 32-0 in anything is almost unheard of.
Well, there's a lot of good players.
Dave Ellis he's exceptional. But
that's soccer. So
that's soccer. Yes, it was. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And it was cool that you got to keep your passion for that, which you obviously have for coaching while you're still working. You were able to do both. That's not easy.
Thanks to our sponsor, Traca Systems. With over 25 years delivering groundbreaking searchlights, stabilized EOIR cameras, mission mapping, and downlinking solutions. Traca products improve situational clarity and coordination with ground crews, increasing mission safety and effectiveness. Visit tracasystems.com. See clearly, act decisively.
Well, at the time I was newly married and no kids, so in a 3/12 schedule. So that helped.
That does help.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think about the time coaching AYSO soccer for my kids and working, and it was challenging. That's just a practice a week, a game a week. This was much more significant.
Yeah.
You're practicing constantly in games constantly, and it took a lot of dedication on your part to do that, but worthwhile, huh?
Very much so. I mean, we had 2 kids from that team, Justin and Drew Holiday, who played Drew's still active and won the NBA championship last year with the Celtics. They were going to the NBA regardless of what I did.
Really?
But they helped me. They helped me look like a good assistant coach. That was I had no bearing on them getting to the NBA. So.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Again, not a lot of coaches can say, "Hey, I've got a couple players that were on the team I was the assistant coach on that are in the NBA or in MLB or NHL, whatever." that's really cool. That's really cool.
We talk about leadership a lot in the podcast, and when you look at leadership and coaching, coaches, you have to be a good leader to be a coach. So I really like the correlation between coaching and leadership. I think you've got an innate ability as a coach to then transfer those skills to be a leader and whatever the thing you're doing is. Some of the world's greatest coaches are some of the best leaders in the world. Lou Holtz, they write books literally on the topics surrounding leadership and
I'm
coaching.
an SC fan, so we don't need to talk about Lou Holtz. But yeah.
I'm going to mute your mic now.
But as a coach, a lot of what we do here in air support is, and I helped out with the football team too, the JV football team when I was at Village, and so you're trying to get people in different positions, but you can't physically move them there.
Yeah.
And so a lot of my coaching experience and background, I think, is carried over in law enforcement in general, but specifically
the communication skills.
Support.
You have, as a coach, you have to be able to communicate. Like you said, you can't lead them to it, but you can describe how to accomplish whatever the thing is. So that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that correlation because that's the biggest thing we talk about. I think the most vital skill in this job is your ability to communicate. And obviously as a coach, as a leader, and as a TFO and a pilot, that's the backbone of what we're doing.
Yeah. And the teaching part. The teaching part's helped you in police work too, hasn't it?
Definitely.
And here, you're involved. You have been involved or are going to be involved in the teaching of TFOs. Is that a new position for you?
A little bit. I'm not an official. Steve's our official CFI, but we had a couple guys come out as relief TFOs back in 2018, and we had a brand new pilot at the time. So Steve was working with the new pilot, and so they asked me if I'd do the training evaluation for those relief TFOs, which is like a 2-week assignment for each of them. So I trained and taught and coached and wrote those evals, and then this week we started with our newest relief TFO.
Yeah, the old profession came back into your new profession of instructing, and instructing is instructing, right? I mean, it doesn't matter if you're teaching somebody how to properly shoot a foul shot or how to lift a helicopter off the deck. I mean, there's certain techniques and certain styles and certain demeanors is important, that help you. It's amazing how it doesn't matter what profession you're in, you get into the new profession, how it can carry over, and to helping you, do that job. We're going to talk about the TFO training job in detail here in a little bit because I think that's one of the hardest jobs there is. But you got to Glendale.
Yep. You
chose not to go to Pasadena. You chose to come to Glendale. It's funny, the rivalry. There is, right? Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena. There is a rivalry. Is that accurate?
Oh, there definitely is. I mean,
still is. To this day.
Burbank just hired a Glendale captain to be their chief.
Yes.
So I think that speaks a lot for the
Steve,
department.
that's a tough one, Steve, to come back on.
I can't even say anything to that.
I've heard good things, but that is funny. That rivalry's there. And for those that are outside of SoCal, I mean, these are 3 sizable cities that are. It's like a triangle of cities that are mashed up against each other. They back each other up on radio calls. Their aviation units are joined. 2 of them are joined out of the 3. There's a lot of working together. So it's a natural thing. We got here first. We're in your city. We got to your call first. I can only imagine the things over the years, but there's still the rivalry going.
It's funny, Beverly Hills isn't far from here, and I think of Beverly Hills Cop. In the banana in the tailpipe. I can see you guys shoving a banana in the tailpipe of one of your rival cities.
It's the old banana in the tailpipe.
I'm sure it never came to that, John. That is outrageous.
They're pretty tight-lipped over here.
Yeah, you notice that? They're just smiling.
Got real quiet.
Yeah.
Like this.
Yeah. They're still working, John. We see, John and I can speak freely.
Yeah, exactly.
We can speak freely to all the bananas in the tailpipe, but these guys can't. I understand. Oh, see what I mean? Not an interesting background.
Right.
Very interesting. And it's neat how it carries over, Pat. And you end up here, What was there something once you were on the job? You talked about you were interested in aviation, but was there something once you were on the job in Glendale that even pushed you harder where this was the goal?
Well, when I first came on during post academy, you get to come out and do a flight with air support. So we came out, did the flight, and of course loved it. Yeah. After I'd been out, they had a relief TFO position that opened up in after I'd been on a couple years, and I got on the list, but it was far enough down that I never got around to coming out. Around 2008, then there was an opening. There was actually 2 openings out here, and I let a supervisor talk me out of putting it in because at that time the economy was down, and he said, "Oh, we're probably going to get away with air support because it costs too much money." And I wish I'd put in at the time. But one of my good friends came out here at that time, and he'll be coming back to the unit, but he's got 3,500 hours now. And so I wish I'd put in back then, but maybe I wouldn't have been selected then too. So over the course of that time, then I really wanted to get back out here. So I would just start coming out on my own time. And a couple Glendale guys, Sean McLaughlin, Mike Woolner, who were out here, they said, "Hey, you want to come out? We'll take you up anytime you want to go."
Yeah.
In fact, the sergeant at the time, he actually he created his Pat Hamblin rule. And he can't come out. He can only come out here once a month. And then at first it was once every other month you can come out on a ride. And then it became, I'll let you come out once a month.
Yeah.
And so I tested in 2016. And another guy got selected, but at that I put myself through. I signed up, went to the LAPD aircrew course.
Yep.
And then in 2016, and that's when I started coming out all the time. And then in 2017, there was another position that opened, and was able to come out then.
Yeah, 2016. You brought it up this morning. You brought it up on when you texted me or emailed me about that was the year that my End to Watch broadcast was played, and we talked about it this morning and get me all teary-eyed. Thanks a lot, Pat.
So I'm here for
that my daughter did for me. And it's motivated me to find the video to send to you, John. It's really amazing. Megan she recorded that at our dispatch, which is unheard of. But they played it at that aircrew course. Yeah. And you made sure to remind me of that because that was a very emotional. So Pat got to see me cry. It's true. And sort of along with 55 other people.
I didn't know commanders cry.
Commanders cry. When they're commanders of nothing, John, they can cry. And I did. That was one of the amazing things she did.
Real quick, it's interesting. You go through seasons of life. You start out in your 20s, you're going through a lot of weddings and a lot of baby showers and a lot of stuff. Right now, I've been through a lot of retirements. Yeah. And our good friends, and your guys' friends, Tony Weber and Mike Calhoun, both just retired. And Arlosa did a really cool End to Watch broadcast for him that was put over social media.
I saw that.
I love those End to Watch broadcasts. I'm excited to hear Megan do yours. I can't think of a better way to do an End to Watch broadcast than what she did.
It was really strange. I mean, she surprised me completely. And even when I first was listening to it, I was like, "Oh, that sounds like Megan," but that can't be. LAPD doesn't do that. I mean, family members going down there. I've heard, family. If you have a dispatcher that's your daughter, she's not a dispatcher. And that is Megan. And it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And she arranged it all. She puts her mind to something. Stand clear. I mean, it's amazing. But I will send it to you. I won't be in the room when you play it, and because Pat's already seen me cry. You don't need to.
I heard I heard a rumor we can confirm now, I guess. I heard a rumor that someone in this table is a dispatcher. Maybe it's done a End to Watch broadcast or two.
I don't know. I wasn't a dispatcher. Were you a dispatcher, Pat?
I'm not. No, I'm not a dispatch. Well, I've worked some overtime at dispatch, but
Steve, any dispatch background?
No, same thing. I answer the phones, but that's about it.
Okay, just checking. We were talking earlier before you got here, Steve, about when you guys were down for a few months a while back, and that you ended up at dispatch for a while, so we had to mess with you a little bit.
Most of us got to go back and be real cops and work patrol, but
and some of us got to enjoy air conditioning.
That's great.
Seniority has its privileges. So
yes, it does, doesn't it? It does.
In all seriousness, dispatch is probably the most underrated assignment within the police department.
Yep.
It is
the work that those folks do up there is amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It used to drive me crazy when people would be overly critical. That's not to say we've all been critical of each other and of dispatchers.
Never. Never.
Yeah. You're the exception to the rule.
I'm kidding. Yeah.
So with that said, most of us could never, ever do that job for 10 minutes. And I would remind people that there were some people that were overly critical. I said, hey, you can be critical of them. They make mistakes just like we make mistakes. It's good to debrief. But you couldn't do that job for 10 minutes if your life depended on it. And they're like, yeah, you're right. So back off, because it's true. It's a very hard job. It's very hard.
I think it's a lack of perspective a lot of times. A lot of times dispatch is removed from the operational environment, so you don't really understand what they're dealing with. You got some insight into that. Our dispatch center was next to the watch commander's office. So you could poke your head in there and see there's 5 stations and one person's literally running between the stations because they're understaffed.
Yeah.
So you get a little insight in why it is. You go try and run somebody on our records channel, and you're calling them 3 times, like, what's going on? Well, you poke your head in there and you realize it's because they're understaffed. So
yeah, it's tough. It is a tough position, and even with the technology, in some ways it's kind of like the TFO job. Technology has come around where it's amazing how much technology is in these birds now, but it's made the job easier in some ways and more challenging in some ways. Do you find that to be true? I mean, especially with teaching people?
Well, I was going to say there's a lot more access to information now in the comm center. Our comms, I mean, I'm sure all of them. I mean, now you got access to these flock cameras. You've got a lot more, I guess, aggregated data off the internet where you can get on people, and that's the expectation now, right? You got to get all that stuff, where before it was just kind of a quick records check and you just gave the generic information. Now there's access to phone numbers and utilities and all this stuff.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Prior stops and where they were stopped and all sorts of great information.
Yeah, dispatch centers have become quite different, and all over the country, and in some places you don't even expect it. It's amazing. I visited a dispatch center in the Netherlands with Harold Brink, and my jaw dropped. I mean, it was everything that you described, Steve. They have access to the trains. They can slow a train down from the dispatch center. They can do all sorts of stuff, and the number of cameras that they can work, and they can track officers where they're at. So if they know that there's something happening at this spot, they know that SWAT is training 2 blocks away because they can see it on a map, and they can tell them, hey, this is happening. I was amazed. And then they downlink live from their helicopter, and there's a screen, and it looks like a movie theater screen where everybody in that dispatch center can see what Harold is seeing on his monitor.
Yeah, Glendale, we just opened up a real-time intelligence center. The Arctic is what we call it. And so
what's it called?
Arctic, RTIC, real-time intelligence center.
Got it.
And they have 4 people assigned up there, and so with cameras and the flock cameras, and so we can be flying. Yeah, we can be flying, get a flock hit. I think you guys when you talked with San Jose, their extensive use of the flock cameras. We'll get a flock hit. We can confirm it with dispatch. They're working on their cameras. If we need to, we can downlink from the helicopter to the Arctic. And so we can do a lot of coordination.
Don't commit a crime in Glendale.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Oh, that's part of it, right? Part of it's a deterrent. You get that word out. Hey, we're watching. I think I read this one time. We're in London. That if you are walking through London from end to end, and a talented person in a center that knows what they're doing with the cameras can watch you from end to end through the entire city of London. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's true. I mean, it was from a credible article, but I thought, wow, talk about deterrent.
Yeah.
I mean, you put the word out about that, and you'd be crazy to do something if you know that's happening.
When every second counts, trust Night Flight Concepts to keep you mission ready. With advanced night vision technology, FAA-certified repair services, and expert training, we've got your 6. Visit nightflightconcepts.com to learn more.
Yeah, I got a good friend of mine that works in the Arctic at Glendale, and we'll have a little competition if there's a crime, if there's something that just happens, and see who can find the suspect first between him in the Arctic and us in the helicopter.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Has there been any training of either formal or informal training with that center with your air unit?
Not with the air unit, but all of our patrol guys have gone through to see the capabilities that they have.
Because you got a great tool here, that works with them. I mean, talk about two prongs of a competition even in trying to find something before the other one does. Working together. Wow.
And we can downlink to them too with the helicopter. The camera.
Wow.
I think one of the most exciting aspects of the downlinking or bidirectional flow of information is being able to essentially create a real-time crime center in the back of a helicopter. You could have a TFO working these multiple screens and being proactive from a airborne perspective, which typically we've been reactionary, right?
Right.
So I think as that technology develops, I think we'll be in a different position where we can do some really cool stuff. I'm excited for that, for sure.
Well, the bread and butter for aviation is to be able to be in the air and be first on scene. So if you're up in the air, regardless of your platforms, even like if you took like a fixed wing platform and you had, you have a crew member, maybe 2 TFOs, one person who's working something, but somebody else who has that information. You have a lot of different things going on.
We've got a huge recruitment issue and staffing issue, I should say, in law enforcement worldwide. And I can think of my time in patrol. How many times did you go to your cherry patch where you knew criminal activity was taking place, but at 2 a.m, you go through there's nobody there. With these real-time crime centers, you can literally just pull up on your phone in a lot of cases and look at these different areas and decide, nope, there's no activity here. I'm not going to go there. I'm going to go to where I do see activity.
Right.
Man, how effective and efficient is that? Yeah. So I think those are the kinds of things that will help, I think, us deal with the staffing issues we've got. The recruitment issues, those are different, but I just love that technology and what it's doing for our productivity and providing a safer environment for our communities.
Oh, that's really interesting that you have how new is that center?
That's within the last few months.
Wow. This is hot off the presses. It's just in its opening phases and this, having success.
Definitely.
Wow. Very cool. Very cool. So while we're on the topic of your cities, let's keep rolling, Pat. Tell us about Glendale. Tell us about the city and the department.
It's time for your Heli Life giveaway buzzword. Listen up and remember this word because you'll need it to enter for a chance to win exclusive Heli Life gear. Ready? This episode's buzzword is Bravo. Visit contest.verticalhelicasts.com to enter the buzzword.
Yeah, 30 square miles, population's about 200,000, not counting, people that roll in, for work every day. So 200,000, 30 square miles. I think we're at 260 officers on the department, so we're budgeted 270. So we're pretty close to actually maxing out right there. So we've had a strong emphasis on recruitment the last couple of years,
sure.
So that's really paid off. So it's a really good sized department. Growing up with my dad on LASD, I would look at Glendale as a small department as a kid.
Right.
But then I talked to guys who went to the academy with the people who lateraled from smaller agencies, Claremont, Laverne, and they're like, "Oh, Glendale's a huge department." Yeah. And we got a lot of opportunity. We have air support, we have K9, we have a SWAT team, which is ancillary duty. We've got a large motor contingent, so don't speed in Glendale, you get tickets. But a large department.
Yeah. And then Steve, Burbank.
Burbank is kind of like the little brother of Glendale. It's a little bit smaller, but it's a full service department. We've got about we're authorized 160. We're at about 152 right now. The city's 17 square miles, about 106,000 population. It swells up, I think, up to like 200,000 during the day.
Yeah.
It's known as the media capital of the world. We've got the Warner Brothers studios in town. We've got Walt Disney Studios and headquarters and a bunch of just smaller studios all over the city. A lot of music studios, stuff like that. But it's along the Verdugo Hills, so most of the city is urban, suburban, that type of area. But we've got same motors, we've got school resource officers, air support. So it's all pretty much full service. We handle our own murder investigations when they happen. Luckily, it's a pretty safe city. It doesn't happen too often, but that's not one of those things where we defer to the county or the sheriff's department like some smaller cities do.
The two cities, I always considered them very similar. And now hearing this, they are really similar. It is amazing for size and everything. And Glendale's a lot like Burbank in that you get a lot of people, like you mentioned, coming in and working there. I mean, Burbank, definitely. I mean, the studios alone, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Just in the music and entertainment industry and movie industry. But there's a lot of commercial. I mean, my wife worked in Burbank for years, over at the Empire Center. As a matter of fact, the air support unit there grabbed a couple of robbery suspects a long time ago. Remember? Yeah. They even remember my wife's robbery caper. Prop 47 was a beautiful thing. It destroyed. She worked retail, her whole life, and that prop overnight destroyed her industry. I mean, retail, it made it unworkable where she went, I can't do this anymore. There's too much crime. And it was in Burbank. Yeah. And I would go, how can this be? She's working in a very safe community. Right. It didn't matter. In Beverly Hills was experiencing it too. Everybody did from just that stupid prop. But you guys took good care of her, and I always appreciated that, including the aviation unit was over that and helped capture some of these guys. But
one of my favorite press releases I ever saw was this guy who got arrested 3 times in about 18 hours for 10851 in like Azusa somewhere, and then finally Pasadena got him, but he had to be released right away.
Oh, yeah. It's
what are we even doing here?
I know. It's just incredible that it's come to that. But, it's California. And it's too bad because things were working pretty good. Yeah. I mean, I just look at Tracy's a great example because retail, she worked there, in Southern California for 30 years in retail. At Gap, Pier 1, in the Valley, in Santa Clarita, in Burbank, never had an issue except for Palmdale. She went to Palmdale for a day and got armed robbery. I mean, basically kidnapped, everybody taken in the back room at gunpoint. Oh. One day she was out there to help somebody, but I expected it in Palmdale. I didn't expect problems here in Burbank. But again, Prop 47 changed all that. But
and people think about Burbank and Glendale as being small cities, but then if you combine the two and you look at them in comparison with their population-wise, it's going to be similar to Cincinnati or Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I love that you put that in something you wrote me, and I went, wow, that's so true. And then you add that third, Pasadena, and it's more than that. It's bigger than Pittsburgh or San Francisco.
At that point, it's like Miami or Atlanta population-wise.
Isn't that incredible?
The 3 together.
Well, it's interesting. If you start at the coast and fly east from there, essentially till you get on the east side of San Bernardino, it's one big metropolis.
Yeah.
You can't tell where one city ends and one begins.
Yes.
Just one huge urban sprawl. You brought up the studios here. I think a lot of people think of Hollywood when you think of the movie industry. But I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like Burbank has more movie studios than just about any other city in the LA basin. We talk about, with you, Jack, all the celebrities that you ran into in the course of your patrol time. I can imagine for you guys, it's got to be, if not a daily thing, a weekly thing, to run into some of these celebrities, which is really interesting.
Well, not out here.
Right, on their sport.
Yeah, I mean, working patrol, you'll run into some every now and then. And if you follow the news presses, I mean, every once in a while somebody's getting arrested. We won't have to name names here, but some people have gotten arrested recently that are high profile. But
But there's one particular celebrity, and we didn't prep this, but we talked about it on the way here, that you probably have both met. I'm just guessing you both did, and that's Jay Leno.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And Jay Leno, we won't disclose anything in detail here about it, but
not criminal wise, just in general.
No. As a friendly, I mean, where he's been in the area of the hangar regularly, and we'll just leave it at that. And because we all know what it is, but he's a wonderful man, isn't he? The first time I met him was right here on the street that's outside here with some canine guys from Burbank.
Yeah,
and we were hanging out, and he just pulls up. It says, "Hey, guys, how you doing?" It's like, holy shit, it's Jay Leno. You know? And then In and Out on Lancashire, he'd pull up. We'd be sitting there, K9. He'd pull up. What a wonderful man. He's one of those people that gives you hope in Hollywood. That there's regular people that care, and he loves law enforcement.
Yeah,
he absolutely does. I mean, I'm sure we've all seen it when there's been, when LASD deputy Steve Owen was killed out, and he donated to that and supported.
Yeah.
And support the deputies out there, and he's just very pro law enforcement and wanting to help out families.
And NBC, where he did his show, is in Burbank, right? Yeah. It's in the city limits of Burbank. So I mean, he had a connection, to Burbank for his very illustrious career. But
it's interesting. You look in the back corner of your hangar, and there's a story there. I don't know if you guys are at liberty to talk about it, but.
Yeah, go ahead, Pat.
The helicopter.
No, that's a Burbank donation.
Oh, that's true. Okay, I'll talk about it. So the helicopter that's mentioned in the corner was graciously donated to us by Mr. Clint Eastwood. Also very pro law enforcement.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
As you expect Dirty Harry to be.
Yeah, as he should be. Yeah.
So I don't know what it's ultimately going going to come of that, but I think it was done with very nice intentions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very pro-police. I mean, for his whole time, he had a lot to do with the Law Enforcement Museum in Washington, D.C. He was a big contributor and getting other people to contribute. We had Craig Floyd on, and he talks about Clint Eastwood very, very highly, and you see he raised a lot of money for that, and it's a great museum. Just a good human.
Yeah.
A good human, and just cares about his community and his police, and we're all thankful for that. That's interesting. That's Clint's.
I think, like you brought up, there's the notion and this understanding that Hollywood's anti-law enforcement, but we've just, in the course of a couple minutes, named 3 different people who are pro-law enforcement. So it does give you hope.
It does. But I have a list of the 10,000 that hate us. I have it right here, as a matter of fact.
All right, let's focus. Let's just focus on the 3.
Okay, well, let's
think positive, Jack. Come on,
trying. I try. It takes a great discipline on my part. But yeah, we know there are some really good people in the Hollywood community. Really good people that really are do what's right and care about public. The public in general. Fire, police, first responders, and they come out of the woodwork when there's tragedy. The fires recently.
Yes.
There's a lot of people that came out of the woodwork, and they're doing good things for firefighters. By the way, Jay was one of those. Jay Leno was one of those, that he showed up serving food. But there are many others. So, yeah, we laugh about it and kid about Hollywood, and some of it's really well deserved because some of them do hate us, and they're at the forefront of that. But there are some good ones that really contribute, and when we need them most, when we lose an officer, we lose a deputy, they step up and help families and things like that. So that's a good thing.
Well, you brought up the fires. Might be an interesting time to ask you guys. I know you're far removed from the Eaton fire. I mean, not far removed. You're fairly close, but from a response standpoint, I wouldn't imagine you had a whole lot to do with it, but during that time of the winds, can you guys talk about how those winds affected you guys with the smoke and everything else that was going on during the LA firestorms?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the night of the Eaton fire, I was working with one of the other Burbank guys, and we weren't even flying just because of how strong the winds were. Eventually, I was listening to Pasadena on the radio, and my brother, who works over there, was helping coordinate those evacuations, patrol, and eventually we just went out. My partner went to Burbank, I went to Glendale, and we helped out in patrol that night because we were sending contingents out to Pasadena to help out. Yeah. So patrol was short-staffed, and the winds were ridiculous. We weren't going to go flying that night anyway.
Wow. So, that's cool that you guys assisted the other cities with patrol calls. I imagine everyone's overwhelmed at that point.
At that point, yeah.
Calls for service, burglary alarms, everything else.
Everything.
Yep.
Mike Sagely talked about those winds, and something that impacted me big time in Mike's conversation from LA County Fire.
Right. Yeah, I listened to that.
Oh, my gosh. Wasn't that amazing?
Yeah.
As helicopter pilots, did you go, ooh.
80 knots with 10 knots ground speed or something like that?
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Flying backward, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if Mike Sagely, and if you listen to his background, if Mike Sagely says it's time to land, it's really, really bad in a Hawk. Mm-hmm. That was an amazing conversation in the middle of all of it, by the way. He talked to us from Whiteman, and shared his time and his knowledge and his experience, but negative G's and the winds, and it must have been crazy. I mean, you guys have seen winds. For those that don't know, Burbank Glendale is right in the funnel for Santa Ana's. So you have both seen and experienced high winds before. How does that talk about the winds here and how that affects you and limitations and things like that?
He loves the wind. So
really? Yeah. That's because he was flying at 15.
Yeah, exactly. As a brand new pilot, so he's instrument, so he wanted to shoot an approach. So he decides, let's go shoot an approach into Burbank one night. And it's 47 knot winds coming out of the north. And so, here, Pat, you've got 70 hours. Here, you take the controls while I put on the goggles here. So, as we're flying, I'm facing Santa Clarita, flying towards Burbank over Chatsworth. So, he loves that stuff. So,
oh, my gosh. Why do you love it so much, Steve? Just the challenge of it? Or?
Well, that's part of it, but it doesn't really bother me too much. It bothers me maybe a little bit more in the airplane, but in the helicopter, it doesn't feel that bad.
Yeah.
So.
So I always hated Santa Ana's because of the turbulence. It's not a sustained wind. It's the turbulence. It's the downdrafts that get you. Yep. You know, Mike talked about that.
Oh yeah, he talked about the downdrafts. They were scary.
Yeah.
I mean, that was chilling when he talked about the downdrafts.
I mean, you guys are just on the windward side of this mountain range. When the Santa Ana's come over that, I imagine there's a lot of turbulence on this side of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it will definitely keep you on your toes. And it's one of those things where I'm comfortable with it more than maybe somebody else may be comfortable. And I don't ever pressure somebody to fly in something that they're not comfortable with. You're not comfortable, you're not comfortable. And that's it, you know. But, I mean, I can go out there and it can be 30 knots and it's fine. So
I remember as a TFO, I was flying with a partner who was very comfortable in the wind, and I didn't even like it as a TFO. We're flying out over Victoria Gardens by the 15 and the 10 freeway. And I'm looking at his controls as a TFL. We're trying to work some call. I don't remember what it was. But his controls are going like this, and I'm going like this. I'm like, turn around. What are we doing here, you know? It's a challenging environment to do anything, you know. Yeah. But like you said, I was not comfortable with the winds. No. Let's go back.
He pointed out, we're flying one night in the wind, and if you fly higher, you don't get the downdrafts coming off the hills. So just learning that. But there was one time there was a stolen vehicle over here, one of the motels in Burbank, and it was during the Santa Ana, so it's 35, 40 knot winds. He's flying. I'm the TFO. We're right here off the departure end of the runway. So as planes are coming in, we're having to offset because they're doing go-arounds all night on the Southwest, and so we're looking for this guy who was first hiding in a hotel. I'm trying to do a FLIR search. He then starts jumps off a balcony, runs down, and so I'm wanting to stay there. And we probably could have gone in and landed, but it was a lot of fun.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Hangar Z Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories that promote the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Lastly, stand by for a message after a word from our sponsors. Cheers.
Thanks to our sponsor, Traca Systems. With over 25 years delivering groundbreaking searchlights, stabilized EOIR cameras, mission mapping, and downlinking solutions. Traca products improve situational clarity and coordination with ground crews, increasing mission safety and effectiveness. Visit tracasystems.com. See clearly, act decisively.
When every second counts, trust Night Flight Concepts to keep you mission ready. With advanced night vision technology, FAA-certified repair services, and expert training, we've got your six. Visit nightflightconcepts.com to learn more.
Thank you to our sponsor, Canyon Aero Connect. Canyon Aero Connect has been a trusted leader in airborne law enforcement communication since Paul Wolfsburg introduced the first flight phone in 1970. While our name has evolved, our commitment to innovation and quality remains strong. Contact us today at canyonaeroconnect.com to explore our latest mission-critical solutions.
We hope you enjoyed this on-location episode of the Hangar Z Podcast. Thank you to both Burbank and Glendale Police Departments for welcoming us into their hangar. Special thanks to Steve Conaway and Pat Hamblin for taking the time to discuss this long-standing aviation unit. Your cooperation and hospitality made these episodes possible. Don't forget to leave us a review, a like, and subscribe to the Hangar Z Podcast. Be sure to check out all the podcasts on the Vertical Helicast platform, including the Helicopter Podcast, the Real Rescue Podcast, the Vertical MRO Podcast, and Valor Flight Crew Podcast. Learn more at verticalhelicasts.com. Stay safe, and we'll catch you the next time on the Hangar Z Podcast.